All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast, episode number 204. As always, I am your host, Bailey Ogbrett, and joined with me is the captain, Mr. Andrew Full. What's going on, dude?
Oh, not a whole lot, just hanging out after we had an exciting morning and ready to.
A 7 to 10 a.m. morning.
No, it was more like, dude, if you really think about it, it was like from 7:15 to 8.
Yeah, basically sacked them up in 45 minutes to an hour and then got blown off the lake because, shocker, once again, the weathermen in New York are wrong. Granted, it's like that every spring, so I don't know why I complain about it because it shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah, let's hope it's different. I listened to 3 different weather forecasts tonight, and they're all different for tomorrow. So some say sun, some say rain. So
hopefully, yeah, we're gonna head back out tomorrow. Andy and I had like a little over 20 pounds, nothing crazy. I know people make jokes about springtime up here in New York for catching fish, but either way, I love it. It's fun. You can't convince me otherwise. It's an absolute riot, and it's fun. It's fun sharing the experiences going out and sacking them up and learning new things on the water every day. But we literally caught probably 20 pounds, 21 pounds within like 45 minutes.
Dude, it wasn't even that. I went back and looked. In 18 minutes, we caught all that weight.
Really? I haven't even gone through all the footage yet. We're starting to get some filming done. And getting some things collected to start, scheduling some topic videos out, some different things that Andy and I are going to discuss and obviously produce. But yeah, we went out today. Unfortunately, our morning got cut short. It looked beautiful for what it was going to be, that nice, perfect 5 to 8 mile an hour chop. Well, you kind of want to get that bite stirred up a little bit, but tomorrow looks slick, calm, which can turn them on depending on the conditions, but it's post-frontal. We're going to see how they cooperate tomorrow. I'm very interested, but we got all day to figure it out, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Either way, it's going to be nice to not be getting rocked around and not have to worry about not having an Ultrex.
I looked at some of that footage when we came back to that spot where we caught him in the morning. We literally were both like taking 2 steps left and right because it was blowing so hard.
Yeah. Brutal. But folks, if you guys are tuning in tonight, as always, we're going to be giving away 2 bags of Outdoorsman coffee. So make sure you guys are participating tonight. Throw out some topics or questions you want us to discuss. Andy and I basically are whooped after today, believe it or not. And we're just going to kind of kick back, talk about 2021 already, and kind of what we've been doing to catch fish thus far, and kind of get into a few different topics. And also, most importantly of tonight, we have a new show sponsor announcement. And if you haven't paid attention, it's already up on the banner. If you've been paying attention, you've been tuning in with the show, you can already guess what it is. Wait, oh, yep, there we go. It's right there. So yeah, I mean, while cat's already out of the bag, for those who might be listening later on an MP3 level platform, or if you're tuning in now, we are partnered with Hobie Eyewear, and obviously we've been partnered with Hobie Kayaks for almost a year now. That we've been with. Yes, Charles, meteorologists are most definitely the only people who can be wrong. Probably 99% of the time. Yeah, and not get in trouble. But kind of getting back to what I'm saying, we are partnered and happy to partner with Hobie Eyewear. I've been rocking these shades. If you guys follow my personal, I've been kind of tagging them for probably the past month now. But we've been rocking their shades. We've got a few different pairs with a few different lenses. The ones I was actually rocking today were these Sight Masters, kind of perfect for low light and sight fishing situations. But we are partnered with Hobie Eyewear, and it's not going to stop at them supporting us and us supporting them. They are going to support you guys. So every month we're going to be giving away one of these Hobie polarized shades for you guys. And starting tomorrow morning, if you guys aren't following us on Instagram, the Serious Angler Podcast on Instagram, just at Serious Angler, we are going to be giving away the first pair of shades. And I believe these are the Mojos. Yeah, these are the Mojos. They're shiny brown wood grain frame with a copper lens. I'll actually break them out for you guys here.
That'd be a good
one. It is. Copper is very good. Obviously, for that low, copper is what you want for that low light, especially when you're sight fishing, because it brightens everything up. Here, let me show you guys there. See if you guys can get a good look at that.
Those are a bad pair of shades right there.
Those will be posted up on our Instagram page in the morning. So make sure you guys are tuned into that so you guys can hop in to win yourself some shades. Win yourself some shades. I cannot speak already. But you guys can also get yourself 20% off if you're looking to get a different pair that we're not giving away at the moment. If you want to get yourself a pair, go down in the description. We have a link that can take you right to get 20% off of your order. Jacob Meeker said, perfect. Was looking at glasses yesterday. Well, we got you hooked up, buddy. Don't you worry.
And the best part about them, too, is they're relatively affordable. A lot of them are under that $100 price point. Forgive me if I'm wrong here, but
honestly, I'll be straight up. Like, I rocked Costas for years. I loved Costas. I still do love Costas. I won't knock them because they were a great glass. And basically, obviously, I love the fit to my face. I believe I had the tail fins, and the way these fit on me. Just shameless plug here. I mean, you'd probably guess that I have Costas on right now because they feel like Costas. They look like Costas, except these actually float. Which for me, I'm a klutz. I'm very clumsy. It's a great way to not lose $150, $200 on the drink, and they're only $70 to $90, depending on what models you guys want. But I got a whole stockpile here of these Hobie shades that once a month we're going to keep giving these away. So make sure you guys are tuning in to social media as you guys are following us because we're going to keep giving stuff away. And obviously, like we mentioned tonight, we'll be giving away 2 bags of coffee. Scott Klein, what's going on, dude? I feel like Scott is in every single show. Scott, dude, I know we couldn't get you on episode 200, but if you got some stuff you want to talk about, I know you had some questions from episode 200. If you want to join in us tonight, shoot me an email, and I'll hop you in here real quick. But yeah, guys, we are super excited to be paired with Hobie Eyewear. Obviously, these shades are freaking sick, and we're only going to see more of it on our social medias. Different lenses, and I think that's a video that Andy and I are going to go into. Is the different lenses that we're going to use for different scenarios because I feel like there's some videos on it, but they're not that in depth. They're kind of like the basic, I'm just, we're sponsored by so-and-so, use these lenses here, and not really giving an explanation why. So maybe we'll create something like that for you guys moving forward. But basically tonight is going to be a little segment for Andrew and I to kind of talk about what we've been doing thus far in 2021. To get on fish, catch fish, how we've been presenting and the baits that we've been throwing, what baits we've been throwing, and the specific techniques. And also just kind of talking about everything under the sun that's going on in the fishing industry right now. But before we get to that, dude, you have a big weekend coming up. Your first guide trip ever.
3 days in a row, 2 different clients. So this is going to be fun. I'm pretty excited about it. I know what the fish are doing because I have a couple buddies that I work with as well, and Jeff has been just absolutely unloading on them just about every day. And I have a couple buddies that have been fishing the river that have told me what's going on there as well. So I am sure that we're going to crack some fish this weekend. It's going to be a riot.
Heck yeah, dude. I'm excited to see how it goes for you. Obviously, your first guide trip, and hopefully it leads to getting rid of that stupid, stinky bank job and going full-time guide eventually. Hope that's the dream for you, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do that. So the more people that inquire about guide trips and book trips, the sooner that can happen.
So. We are all about selfless plugs today because we started with Hobie Eyewear. So selfless plug. If you want to get on some giant smallmouth on Lake Erie or Niagara River, get in touch with this guy right here because you're going to have a blast. And obviously, he's a lot of fun to stick with. What's that?
Also win a $100 gift card. So I'm giving away a $100 gift card to whoever catches the biggest fish on my boat of the year, so smallmouth or largemouth, because we have the opportunity to do both depending on where you want to fish on Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. So, yeah, we could catch a big fish of the year and you're getting $100 back in your pocket. So why not spend a few dollars and have a shot to win?
So I fish on your boat. Do I qualify for this?
You don't pay me to go fishing on my
boat. Fair enough. I pay you in YouTube money. No, I'm just kidding. But dude, really good comment right here from Scott Klein. He goes, "Damn, I would love to join in on the chat, but he's watching us when he's currently in Walmart shopping with his old lady." That is comment of the year so far. Watching the chat and joining us from Walmart live. Serious Angler podcast, Serious Dangler podcast from Walmart coming at you live.
I would love for him to hop on here as he's walking around Walmart.
Dude. Here, Scott, if you're willing, dude, you should just come in. We're going to ask random people in Walmart questions. That would be perfect. It's like one of those challenge videos that all these big YouTubers are doing now. Like, I ask random people questions on Walmart. I don't know.
Guys, in the chat, keep questions because we do have 2 bags of coffee to give away. So, anything, we will answer that.
Another selfless plug. We're all about selfless plugs tonight, guys. There is now, with Outdoorsman Coffee, there is now a blend called Serious Angler. So if you want to get yourself some Serious Angler coffee, head over to Outdoorsman Coffee. Obviously, there's a link down below. Get yourself some 15% off and get you some dang good coffee.
I have an idea.
Shoot.
We do a Hobie eyeglass giveaway one month, but people have to prove that they have bought Serious Angler coffee from OCC.
Brainstorming.
Brainstorming live.
Yeah, exactly. Just asking fishing questions.
Do you know what a Senko is?
That was the exact thing I was thinking about. Do you know who Kevin Van Dam is? Who's better at hockey, Kevin Van Dam or Wayne Gretzky? Just a random gibberish. But speaking of Kevin Van Dam on MLF, Heavy Hitters is going on right now. We actually have me share screen with you guys what is going on with the results over there. Share screen this. Get my notes out of here.
I didn't forget it was going on, but I saw like glimpses of it. They were fishing in like a pollen storm.
Yeah, I mean, well, real quick, we'll go over this. It's the qualifying days right now. Group A, Fletcher Shryack is actually leading, which, good for him. I feel like he's kind of been in a drought. No offense, I'm not trying to throw any shade or anything, but I believe he's just kind of been in a drought. So it's cool to see him on top of the leaderboard. And then for Group B, Brian Thrift, shocker, is in first, destroying everybody. But not surprised whatsoever with Brian Thrift being on top there. But it's cool because what they have now is like the guys who are in first for Group A and B technically win their round and move on to the championship round. But I believe what I heard on a show, I think it was BTL, that mentioned if they win the round, they can either just decide to stay back, home or whatever that day instead of competing, or they're allowed to still go out and fish, knowing they can fish in championship round, and just basically still have the opportunity to win $25,000 with a big fish. So they can just go out swinging for one big bite to win that extra $25,000, or they can stay back, rig tackle or something. Kind of an interesting concept, but I've been doing my best to watch it. But I do have to mention, and I want to put it out there. I love watching bass. I love watching MLF, and I've been trying to watch NPFL. I'm excited to see how they do at
Right Patman.
Is that what it is called? Right Patman?
Yeah.
It's the lake that no one's fished yet or even heard of, really. But I love watching all of it. But Major League Fishing, I think, really needs to step up how they market their events, because there's been times where literally it's day one that morning. I'm like, oh crap! There's actually a tournament going on. I can go watch, and try to learn from these guys. Where Bass kills it with the marketing. NPFL killed it with their inaugural event. So it's something maybe step up, or maybe I'm just not following the right thing. So who knows? But
I mean, I can agree with that too, because I follow Major League Fishing, and basically all the anglers who are fishing it, it's like you don't hear about it until that day.
Mm-hmm.
The MPFL guys, the week before they were going, were posting how they were all excited to get to Eufaula and everything else that was going on for that first event, and you knew that it was going live because that's what you saw all the time. Mm-hmm. Major League Fishing, I feel like you never know what's coming next until it's almost too late.
Right. Yeah. Until it's literally happening, and you're like, "Oh crap!"
Like, wow.
But again, I mean, we could just not be found the right resources, I guess, or maybe just I don't know. But either way, it's been cool to watch Heavy Hitters. Obviously, I love watching Brian Thrift fish because if you watch Brian Thrift, you're probably going to learn something. But we actually have a question here coming in from Charles Blood here, Andrew. and he's asking, pull us up for the screen for the folks watching. Andrew, why did you choose steelhead and smallies as your choice of fish to guide for compared to the other species in your area?
So I can't guide for steelhead yet, but I'm going to next Thursday. I have my New York State guiding exam to guide inland waters. I suppose I could do steely fishing if I'm on a certain body of water. It's what I grew up fishing. I learned how to smallmouth fish because of steelhead fishing and trout and salmon fishing. And then for smallmouth, that's just an easy one because I live on Lake Erie on the eastern end, which arguably is probably the best smallmouth fishery in the United States. Arguably top 3 easily. So
I think it's easily the best that's not talked about enough.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the issue is we have a southwest wind. And we're in the northeast end of Lake Erie, so the predominant wind just makes my end rough all the time.
Yeah.
So
it makes things a little difficult. Good grief. But we also have a question from the Instagram.
Okay.
And I believe it's actually Jacob Meeker who threw this in, one of the first questions for us. And it was asking what temperatures you first start throwing topwater. And I thought that was really interesting because for me, I don't really throw topwater until I know they're getting on beds because that's a fun way to try to locate them, like throwing a frog or a spook or whopper plop or whatever have you. And I always thought that was interesting because I know you can catch them before they get on beds on topwater. But for me, I always felt like I knew that I could bite it, but I knew I'd get more bites if I'm throwing something like, if I'm cranking, throwing a chatterbait, dragging a jig, something along those lines. Whereas a topwater, I might get a fun, but like I might get a bite or two and it'll be fun. But at the same point in time, I don't feel like I'm going to be as efficient as throwing, say, a chatterbait. But I'm curious on your take.
Situational based. So if the lake temp is, let's say, 55 degrees, and New York State's kind of weird because we don't have many pocket waters per se. It's all usually the lakes are all one temperature. So like there are some instances where you can catch them on like a buzzbait or a frog. I want to say the earliest I ever caught them is like the second week of May on frogs, depending on where we're going. But the water temp has to be near 60 or even low 60s.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Guys, can you mention in the comments if you're having issues hearing Andrew? I can hear Andrew loud and clear, but Tony over on the Facebook asked, or he mentioned that, Andrew, you're kind of hard to hear. I can hear you fine, buddy. I can hear you loud and clear.
Interesting.
So if anyone else is watching, obviously comment if you can hear Andrew fine. Make sure it's not just that Jacob Meeker says you're all good. So maybe, Tony, it might be on your end. If that's the case, maybe if you have headphones, it could be a headphone issue. Either way, I apologize. But yeah, it's very situational based. I mean, for me, like I know, like depending on the area where largemouth get up to spawn, I kind of like to throw a popping frog, especially if they get in like cattails, marshy areas, because sometimes, and we've talked about this before, is like when New York, it gets like when they're moving up to spawn, sometimes we get these heat waves that roll in, right? That these days where it's 40 degrees, 50 degrees, 60 degrees, and then they start to they're moving up. Yeah, exactly. So they're starting to move up, they're crashing towards shallow, and then you get 3 days in the 80s, and a huge wave just hits the bank. And what that can do is create like this algae bloom. So like flipping a jig or throwing a swim jig, chatterbait, whatever have you, you're going to get crap all over your bait, and it's kind of be inefficient. Whereas a popping frog can hover in that strike zone. Obviously you can keep it in that strike zone a long time, and it's going to be weedless. So for me, I kind of like that. Whereas I know you have experience with, say, these pre-spawn smallies moving up, and you can get them on a whopper plopper. May not catch them for the most part. You could catch some, but it could almost be more of a search bait than anything else, if you're willing to talk about that.
Yeah, so what we're talking, me and Bailey were just talking about this morning when we were riding out to go fishing. 2 years ago, might have been 3 years ago now. I don't remember the exact time. It was either 2 or 3 years ago. I was pre-fishing for a club derby I was fishing, and it was actually the second event I ever fished as a boater. And I'm going along and I'm like, I need to find fish that are moving up into shallow flats that I can't see because we got a lot of rain and whatnot. So I came up with this ingenious idea to burn a whopper plopper just to see if I could get them to swirl. And unbeknownst to me, I had a day of just wrecking them on a whopper plopper, not even trying to do it in like 61, 62 degree water, burning it on an 8-to-1 with 50-pound braid in over like 20 foot of water on a flat. Like it was just insane. They were coming up, and all I wanted to do was have them show themselves so I can mark where they were to go back and catch them the next day, because it's like a shelf where I was fishing. So it was like 20, and then it would come up to 12, and then it would come up to like 2 or 3, and they would spawn on that 12 to 2 to 3 break. So I was not so much parallel, I was 45ing at the shore and burning it back, and they would show themselves. And as they came up close, I could just get a waypoint based on like the visualization to the shoreline. But as soon as I slowed it down, like let's say a half a turn per retrieve, so I'm just slowing it down by a half a turn slower, and they would fire and grab it, and it was the coolest thing ever. And I've caught them doing that with poppers too. But the whopper plopper bite is just so much fun.
Yeah, dude, and kind of on that topic too, to kind of piggyback off that, not really with topwater, but what I found is like when I'm looking for, say I'm on a spawning flat where I know smallies are going to be, and for some reason, what I've found is a lot of these, the smallies that are bigger smallmouth, right? These 4+ caliber, the females, I found that they tend to spawn a little bit deeper. So if that clarity is not where I can see in that 10 to 12 foot range, where there might not be as many spawners, but there might be a few that are big. What I found is I can take a big glide bait and hover that right on the surface and just slowly kind of walk it, slowly reel, so that it's just slowly gliding side to side. They will come up and they won't usually hit it. They might bump it. You might feel them depending on how far you cast, and obviously depending on your visibility for that day. But I found that what you can do is actually draw them up with how aggressive they are. You can draw them up and that like they show themselves, so you might not catch them. You most likely will not catch them. And you can therefore turn around, throw like a drop shot, a Ned rig, a swim bait, whatever have you, and drag it slowly on the bottom because you know that's where they're at. And if they're that aggressive to come up after that big of a bait, they're not going to be shy away from a small swim bait, 3 feet from their bed. So it's something kind of cool. It's more of you're throwing these baits as decoys rather than actually to catch anything, because you're just making fish show themselves. And to me, that's awesome. I absolutely love that. Like search baits is such a cool conversation to go down, because there's so many baits that people determine as it has to be used this way when it could be used in hundreds of different forms, especially just to find fish.
And one of the most important things I can always say too with that is if you're just fun fishing, you're doing it, always have a follow-up bait ready. So if they show themselves, have a drop shot, a Ned rig that everybody has come to love the last like 3 years, or even a wacky rig Senko at 4 or 5 inch, or a general, or any type of stick worm that you like. And if they cook it, you pitch it in there right away, a lot of times they'll eat it instantly.
Right. And in talking about that, a lot of people associate like follow-up baits with topwaters, right? I try to have like a Senko, depending on what foot of water I'm fishing. I'll either have a weightless Senko, wacky rigged, or Texas rigged, or if I'm fishing a little bit deeper, I'll put like an 1/8 ounce pegged weight, not even pegged. Depends on actually what I'm fishing. I might have it pegged, might not. But what I'll do is, even if I'm throwing like a chatterbait or I'm cranking, whatever have you, if I miss a bite, if I know I missed a bite, I'll cast back in there with that. If they don't hit that, then I'll throw that Senko in there or something as a follow-up. Not just for topwater, for any baits, any moving baits, that if you know you miss a bite, you can therefore follow up and should be good. But Ed Doyle says voice is breaking up, no headphones on YouTube.
I'm gonna look and see if I have some headphones in here to see if that helps.
Ed on YouTube, are both of our voices, or are you just having issues with one of us? Let us know, and we can try to get that fixed for you. Simon, have either of you used the free rig? I know Andrew has not shut up about the free rig so far this year.
I haven't gotten to it yet. It's something I do plan on doing shortly. I do not have headphones, so sorry, I got my wife's computer bag.
Oh, don't shy away. That's your bag. We know it.
No, so the free rig, Simon, that intrigues me. It's something that people haven't really talked about much. I've talked about it here a little bit. I have a couple places that I think it will work really well. I'm going to experiment with it this weekend. On both my guide trips, the clients asked me to fish with them. So I'm going to experiment while I know what's going to get bit. I'm going to try like the free rig to see what baits will work best with. I have a couple ideas, but I want to do a little bit more digging to find the perfect hook to use. Because I've seen like an EWG, like a small one, like a worm hook. I've seen just like an open regular drop shot hook. So I'm not too sure which way I want to go.
Now, what are you thinking then? As of right now, like I know obviously you haven't thrown it, but like as of right now, what do you think is you're going to be your setup from rod to line to hook?
I think I'm going to throw it. Hear me out. I think I'm going to throw it on a bait caster, like a 1/2 ounce weight. So I'm going to try to fish it more like a Carolina rig.
Okay.
So I'm thinking along the lines of a bait, maybe like a max scent hit worm with like a size 1 worm hook and a bead in between the hook and the weight. I'm thinking that might get chewed.
Interesting. Now, what kind of weight are you going to throw? Does it not even matter? Are you going to throw like a teardrop, pencil? What does it matter?
Probably, I think I'm going to go pencil.
Pencil.
I know a lot of people are using like a teardrop pencil hybrid type one, so it's more elongated and has a teardrop shape at the bottom. I don't have any of those, so I'm going to do just pencil weight for now.
Okay. Now, what kind of plastics do you think you're going to throw on it? Are you going to throw like whatever, or are you going to specify maybe like some Z-Man, some stuff that you know floats? So maybe what you could do is almost essentially work your bait, keeping your weight on the bottom, and depending that bait could float, obviously, and you're pulling it, dragging it back down to the bottom, it'll float back up, that kind of deal. Is that what you think?
Yeah, that's definitely something out there. I've even thought about doing like if there's a shatter round going with like a straight shank hook, right? And threading it out like let's call it a baby C2 type bait and straight shanking it and then dragging like a red bead in that weight so I can kind of drag it that way as well. So
those Z2s are so sick. I've been using those for probably 1.5 years, not 2 years already, and they really exposed that when Bill Weidler won at St. Clair. That's when the people really started to hear about it. But like, they still hasn't even blown up. But those Z2s are like my go-to behind like a flatworm.
Yeah, I don't talk about them, but I have about 40 bags, I think, of Z2.
Well, that's the thing, dude. They last forever too.
Yeah, whenever I see them in stores around here, because I find them every once in a while for like $2.79 places, and I'll just buy the entire rack because I'm like, some places are like $4.99 or $5. They're so wildly priced all over the place. I just grab them when I find them for a good deal.
Right. Yeah, dude. And I'm gonna play around with them more of like putting them and what's the Z-Man bait that I'm thinking about? Oh my gosh, I throw it a bunch too. I'm trying to remember what it's called.
Like the
look it up here.
Shad.
I'm gonna look it up here, but basically what I'm trying to do is like give my top 3 like drop shot baits. And obviously first and foremost it's gonna be the flatworm. But the second one is most definitely that Z2. It's almost like a tiny miniature fluke. It's like a 3-inch fluke. But let me see. We're gonna look up here. Z-Man. Let's see if we can find it. I think it's Trick Shots, I believe it's called. I want to say Trick Shots.
I don't use a lot of Z-Man stuff besides like the TRD. So
yeah, it's the Trick Shots, the Z-Man Trick Shots. I'll put it up on the share screen here. This is another bait that I want to take that and like a Z2 and put those in like a bucket of gulp. So they add like that scent to it. Do something along the lines of that to try to kind of experiment with it. But it's what about you? I know obviously you're a flatworm fan, but if you were to pick 2 other drop shot baits, if you weren't allowed to throw a flatworm, what are you gonna throw?
3-inch Senko.
Wacky rigged or on a small Texas rig, like a 1/0 Texas rig?
No, sir.
Interesting. Why? Simple and stupid, or?
Oh, that baby has all kinds of action. You wouldn't. And then would be like a trick worm style bait. There's a couple different companies of baits that I like to use. It kind of varies from like a robo worm, and depending on the size of the robo worm too, right? So if you go like 4.5 inch, I wacky rig it 99.999% of the time. But if I go to a 6 inch, Chris Birch, both. And there's very specific colors that I use for each one. So that and some of them you can't find anywhere except for specific stores. So I'm not going to tell you what color it is because then you will go buy them. So your bags are the one color. I think there's 3 people that know about it. So it's like,
can I expose you right now?
It's a green.
I don't think Andy would ever talk to me again if I exposed him.
Yeah, go ahead. What color do you think it is?
The purple laminate?
No.
Is that not one of them?
No, they don't make that in a 3-inch Senko.
Oh, okay. I take it back. But isn't that not your favorite color, Senko? Is the purple laminate?
It's green pumpkin. It's dark green pumpkin amber laminate. And that's
okay.
5
I
inch.
royally screwed that one.
But no, it's a green pumpkin color. They make it in the 3-inch only. And yeah, good luck finding it.
Is it green pumpkin gold flake?
Close.
Did I guess it?
Close.
There you go. I got you guys close. I did my best. We're just going to expose all of Andrew's juice tonight.
But then I will talk about the Fat Senko, though. There's 2 really good colors. Just standard green pumpkin black flake and then General's watermelon. So if I had to go the fat, those are the 2 I'm using. If I'm going the 3-inch version, it's either one of 2 green pumpkin colors. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I know you throw that Fat Senko on something else.
Oh, it's a dynamite Ned rig bait when there's no in the water. I'll go ahead and talk about that because nobody will be dumb enough to pay $6.99 for 6 of them. So,
I guess the 3-inch Fat Senkos are gone.
Yeah, they're hard. They're hard to find, but I have a surplus of about 50 to 75 bags, so I'm good to do.
Okay.
I buy in bulk, like 10 to 15 bags at a time. If I start getting low, I buy 10 to 15 more bags.
You know what I really want to experiment with is, one, obviously people are, they know we're with Queen Tackle. And I'm not saying this in a selfless plug. I'm saying this legit because, one, we're trying to get them to make a bigger size. And I'm just going to put it out right there is this finesse football jig that Queen's making. And Andy, I've talked about this. We've talked to Jeff is trying to get him to make a 1/2 ounce because he makes up to a 3/8, but he's making them in these Gobi colors. And what I want to do is put a Fat Senko on as the trailer to almost essentially be this Gobi bait for when you're drifting out on Erie or Ontario. I think that could be a cool bait. But I'm trying to think about what kind of rod I want to throw on that on. I'm thinking more almost essentially like a trap rod where it's like a 7.2 to a 7.4 medium, moderate, fast.
Yeah, medium would be a great rod for it, but I would actually go fast to extra fast.
Okay, why?
Just quicker hook. Just quicker tip. So like when you start getting into an extra fast action with a medium action rod, like a medium power rod, it's going to have the backbone similar to like a medium heavy. So you're going to be able to drive the hook home, but it's going to be soft enough and forgiving enough for those lighter wire hooks to keep them pinned. Like a 7-foot medium fast or extra fast rod would be dynamite for that.
So because it's not as big of a presentation, I don't need to go to a moderate fast.
Correct.
I can just go to a fast because they're going to have it right away.
Correct.
Okay. Good to know.
But that's the reason why I said a medium powered rod. Because the medium power rod can lean into them, even though all that extra fast tip is doing is allowing you to detect that subtle bite quicker.
Right.
So when you hit them, give them the business with the medium action rod, it's still going to bend all the way through the middle like a rod rack.
Right. Okay.
It's just going to be quicker action, so you're going to get a better hook set with those thinner, real thin wire hooks.
That makes sense.
So, but on the flip side, you could go medium heavy, moderate fast, and that would essentially do the same thing. It would just be a heavier rod.
Right. And I was more just thinking the medium and like a 7.4 because it's a thinner wire hook. And especially when you have a 5.5, 6 pound smallmouth on there, you want to let them be able to torque that thing and obviously be able to play it. Where I think a medium heavy, depending on how you have your drag set, how you're playing them, you're a little bit more viable to bend that hook out.
Yeah, so I don't disagree. If somebody would make a 7.4, let's call it either a medium extra fast tip or like a 7.4 medium heavy fast, I would buy that rod in a heartbeat. But nobody makes a 7.4 medium extra fast or a 7.4 medium heavy.
Poor Andrew. he asked, what's a 5.5, 6 pound smallmouth? Asking for a friend. The stuff that people say. Yeah, the stuff people say when they live in Ohio. So, I mean, you got Lake Erie, buddy. You just got to get out there, man.
Ohio does have really big fish, though. You have to be really choosy where you are fishing.
Yeah, I know nothing about Ohio.
So
just beyond what Andrew tells me is he hates Ohio. Let's see. We got a question here from Get Up Gaming, and it's how do swim baits do up north? I'm thinking in terms of bigger swim baits he's talking about.
I'm not sure.
Let's cover both. I mean, obviously, small swim baits, dynamite work all year round for everything. For pretty much anything you want to throw out. But bigger swim baits, people have this conception that their bass aren't big enough up here, or there's a forage not big enough for them to eat it, which is entirely wrong. I've had a lot of good success on 6 to 8 inch swim baits, 8 to 10 inch glide baits. Granted, for me, in terms of the big 8, 10 inch glide baits, that's basically a bait that I have every time I'm in tournament practice just to locate bigger fish, because it just naturally gets fish curious. It's a big target, allows those fish to show themselves, and you don't have to catch them, but basically allows you to see, like, okay, there's a lot more bigger fish in this area, especially if you're in a grass fishery. It can kind of help you narrow down certain areas to kind of focus on, to kind of break down. But I think a big paddle tail, especially this time of year, obviously I think like a 6 to 8 inch mag draft is a good one because it's inexpensive. Granted, it's probably my extent as for big paddle tail swim baits. It's about all I've thrown or have confidence in, I should say. Will work all year round. I think your best time to like have multiple bites on it, I think, is now. I think when you get that water's in that 50 degrees and rising range, I think that's the best time to throw a big swim bait up here. And they will eat it. They will most definitely eat it. I have pictures of 5+ with that 8 inch swim bait almost disappeared.
Yeah,
so they eat it's there's time and time again where, you look at a bait and you're like, oh, maybe that's too big of a presentation. Maybe they might not be able to get that. And then you throw a giant presentation and the first thing that eats it and chokes it is a 2-pounder. Fish can eat way bigger things than we give them credit for. There's a lot of things we don't give these fish enough credit for.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have the extensive history, and albeit we'll call it short, extensive history that Bailey has with swim baits. But everything I do swim bait wise is like 2.8 high-tech or 2.75 range swimmer up to about a 4.3. I have dabbled a little bit like 5 and 6 inch yellow bellies and caught 1 or 2 fish with them. But 99.9% of the fish I catch are either on like a 3-inch spark shad or a 3.3 inch high-tech. Like those are the two baits. If I'm going to throw a swim bait, that's what I'm throwing 999% of the time. I don't know why I keep saying 999 or 99.999.
Your numbers are all jacked up. We're getting another comment about your audio here, Andrew.
And I apologize. I just unmuted myself. I apologize if my audio is jacked up. I'm not at home, so I'm not sure if it's like a connection issue or whatnot. So I apologize.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what we can do with it, guys. Hopefully my audio is not too bad. So if there's something you want relayed, I can always relay that message. But Andrew, I can hear you loud and clear. It sounds like some people have you loud and clear and some people don't. I'm not too sure what the deal is there. So we apologize to those. I don't really have anything here to fix Andrew's audio with the service we have. Let me see if I actually have mic settings here. Apparently it's skipping. All I have is echo cancellation and such, but we'll try to work through it. We'll have we're gonna try to actually upgrade our technology here this coming year. So hopefully that'll fix future problems. But Get Up Gaming kind of came back and kind of specified where he likes to throw a 3.75 inch to a 4-inch jointed swim bait that works well in Indiana, which brings me to an interesting thing I wanted to point out is back in November, dude, when I was on Lake Chickamauga for that Bass Nation kayak event, my two deals was I found these springs, and basically I was relying on these springs because they were loaded with fish. My backup deal was a bluff wall deal, but it was only relevant for me because earlier that week it was in 30 to 40 degree temps, and that weekend was 60 to 70 degrees, so it wasn't going to be something I could rely on. But I had found schoolers, and the schoolers, the only thing I could get them to trigger on was a Z2, like we mentioned, on an 1/8 ounce ball head, kind of like a Demiki rig essentially, but almost like tight lining it. And the only thing else I could get them on was burning a 3-inch baby bull shad. And that was a fun bite, and I could only get one to trigger when I had schoolers on tournament day. So I did have one of my fish on a board on a baby bull shad. Actually, I should take that back. I had it on the board, but I was the idiot that didn't have my entire identifier in the picture, and it was an 18-incher, and so I got DQ'd. But it is what it is. Either way, jointed swim baits do work well. I do believe in the bull shad. It's something I might play around with up here. But for me, it's just, right now, I'm not really throwing a big swim bait just yet. I think you can get bit on it, but I'm just not throwing it right just yet because you can jack them on whatever you want, really.
I wish I lived closer to Rochester. Yeah, albeit it's an hour and a half to each lake, basically. But I would love to get like a matte lure bluegill, like a jointed hard bluegill body, and when the bluegill are on bed,
like a jackal.
Or like Jackal Gear On, I think it's called, or whatever.
Oh, the Gantarelle. That Gantarelle, that's what it's called.
That would be a really fun bite. So hopefully this fixed the audio. I found the AirPods in my wife's bag, and they have 90% battery life. So if you can hear me better, please let me know.
I know Scott said he can hear you just fine. So it might be just kind of dependent on what you're tuning in. Maybe your guys' connection isn't up to par. Either way, we're going to try to figure that out for you guys regardless. But so getting back to our questions here, Charles Blood says, do you guys ever throw anything on a medium light rod? And Charles, specify that if you're talking about a bait caster or spinning. Spinning, most definitely. Yeah. That's what my drop shot rods are going to be.
So, Bailey, today, the rod I caught most of my fish on was a 703 Douglas LRS, which is a medium light rod.
Because the 3 at the end of a 703, so 7 foot with a 3 action of 3 is a medium light.
Yeah. So, and that rod handles actually like flat side crankbaits really well. But I'm going to try the 724 tomorrow to see how that goes.
Because you want that longer rod.
Just to see if I can get a little more casting distance. Oh, here's a little side point. Guys, I know I said I was going to do a reel review. I finally got to play out with both of my new reels today, and I can tell you right now the SLX MGL is sick nasty at throwing super light baits for $149.99. I highly suggest you buy some before I buy one. So it's an awesome little reel.
I also think it's important to note that you bought a 70. Well, you bought a 71 because it's lefty, but you bought a 70, which is made better for throwing lighter baits, correct?
Correct.
And it's also flipping and pitching.
Yeah, and I wanted to compare it towards like the Tula SV series for throwing lighter baits, and it throws lighter baits way better. Like I'm able to throw a Fritz side farther than Bailey is able to on his reel. I don't know what reel he was using, without me ever touching the reel itself. Like the bait would hit the water and not backlash.
Yeah, I was throwing a die with the Tula SV and also a CT. The CT was the one that sounded like it was about to die and like a dying seagull. Yeah, it made a noise of a dying seagull practically every time I cast. But another good question here. I think this is actually kind of cool to talk about. From our buddy Andrew at the Tackle Talk podcast. If you guys are kind of like getting into bass fishing, you're tuning into here. Andrew's show here, Tackle Talk, is another great one to get in for pointers. He has some really good discussions with some really notable guests. But he's a serious question for the serious anglers. Great plug. When do you think a single hook bait gets too big for a normal size smallmouth because a mag draft has a treble? And I think it's an interesting discussion because there's a mag draft traditional, which has a treble on the belly that's already installed, right? It's already kind of has the mag draft system, whatever you want to call it. And then there's a mag draft that's a freestyle that you can kind of make whatever you want. And honestly, I don't think I have an answer for too big beyond maybe 9 or 10 inches, because you look down at Pickwick, those guys are throwing the 6-8 inch swim baits that have, 3/4 ounce to ounce jig heads on it with a 5-6 hook, and these smallmouth are swallowing it.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take if there's too big? If there is too big,
it's situational based. So like down south or California, where they're eating trout or bigger shad like gizzards, you could probably get away. You can get away with an 8 to 10 inch hollow belly with a 1 ounce, like 6 to 8 hook in that 1 ounce swim bait head. Up north, that one's hard. I have gotten them to fire on a 6-inch hollow belly on the Niagara River a few times, but that is very, very far and few in between. I haven't done that in probably 4 or 5 years. But you can get away with a single hook at least for a 6-inch bait up here in New York or in the Northeast.
The biggest bait I've gotten a smallmouth to trigger on up here is a Savage Gear Shine Glide, which if you want a cheap and affordable glide bait that's going to walk consistently, I highly recommend the Savage Gear Shine Glide. And basically what I did was what I was talking about earlier, deeper spawning fish that I wanted to show themselves, I'd throw a bigger glide bait and just kind of hover it over top. And basically what I did is I had a couple that went out and came up and bumped it. Some of them looked like they were trying to eat it, but other ones obviously were probably just chasing it off the bed. Basically what I did to try to get those fish to trigger on that, just out of curiosity, is I swapped the front treble to a size 2 with a feather. It was a feathered treble. And I got one that was 4.9 to eat it. And that's the biggest thing I've got a smallmouth to trigger on. But it's more of something I haven't experimented with. Is that Mr. Jeff Hippert?
Yeah, it's hard to focus.
There we go. Now it's focused. Jeff's jacking him. That is Mr. Jeff Hippert, the Duke of Buffalo that we've mentioned so many times.
Jeff is my tournament partner for most of the summer on Wednesday nights. There's an 18-inch 5-pounder that's a freaking beast. But yeah, it looks like I haven't been on the lake in a couple of weeks, but it looks like it is firing off. There's another big one.
That's pretty exciting. Now, that's a really good question. And I don't want to show any favoritism here, but because I do like it and I think it provokes a really good conversation on how big baits can also ultimately don't have to be too big. It's just more of what the forage and what those fish are willing to commit on. But Andrew, I want to send you some coffee because that is my question of the night, is talking about that, because I do have a soft spot that's building rapidly for bigger baits. And I think it's such an interesting conversation because we hear all the time where people say it's too big. They're not going to eat that. That's too big. How are they going to fit that in their mouth? That type of deal. And really, it's like we don't give these fish enough credit. I mean, if you throw a big bait and you tell me that you don't catch a 2-pounder on that giant bait, you're lying. Because it happens, it's most likely the first fish you're going to catch on it is going to be a 2-pounder. But Andrew, I appreciate you starting that conversation, dude. I will shoot you a message and get your address and send you some coffee. And probably we'll get you guys sent some serious angler coffee is what we're going to do. As we mentioned prior in the podcast, we now have a serious angler blend over at the Outdoorsman Coffee Co. So go check that out. Link down below. We're all about the selfless plugs tonight. Which, going back really fast for you guys, for those who may be joining us that missed it earlier, we are now partnered up with Hobie Eyewear for this season. And every month, once a month, we're going to give away some Hobie shades. So tomorrow, we are posting on our Instagram page. If you're not following us on Instagram, we're going to give away a new pair of Hobie Mojos, which is essentially, like I mentioned here, these are some Mojos here. Essentially like Costas. Copper lenses, great for sight fishing. You guys will see more of that. Just follow us on Instagram and you'll see the post in the morning.
And that's the other thing too, is they don't just have copper and Sightmaster lenses. They have lenses for driving. They have lenses for, I think, golf too. I think I read on the website. Like they have lenses for every condition, not just fishing.
Boating, like they have conditions where they actually break it down into sight fishing, low light, obviously completely like sun, overcast, like so high sun. I'm trying to remember which ones they broke it down into as well. They obviously have ones that are for style. So if you're somebody who likes to have a purpose shades where you're putting them into work and somebody where you're going out with friends, that sort of thing, they obviously have that style for you as well. Just link down below and you guys can actually save yourself 20% off. But Chris Birch, and if you're willing to guess where Andrew has gone most this year, Chris Birch is asking what lake you hit so far.
I will say one, I've been to Honey Eye, but I will not disclose the other place we have been. So,
shocker, Andrew has gone to Honey Eye
twice,
and he's jacked.
I think. Yeah, I it took me a little bit to figure out what they were doing because the water temp when I got there was 58 degrees at like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning on a cold, rainy night. I'm like, why the hell is the water so freaking warm? And and the fish were doing weird things. Like I caught them all in like 3 foot of water, but it took me fishing basically the same bait and just keep changing colors until I found the color they wanted. And I went back and reran all the same water I did earlier, and they would just chew it. So as soon as I got the right color down, which is kind of weird because I'm not a big believer in specific colors when it comes to moving baits. I think they're all going to get bit. And on Sunday, they literally would only eat one color of this Lucky Craft square bill I was using. And it was just like, what the heck? Like I went from a flashy bluegill pattern to almost more of a matte style, and they only wanted the matte style.
Yeah, dude, it's such an interesting conversation because I agree that I don't think color is as important as per se contrast, but I also think in clear water that certain patterns will work over others in terms of matching the hatch, as they say. But I think that comes back to the whole conversation when it comes to clear water is like that UV light and what fish can actually see versus, like you say like a chartreuse, right? Where a chartreuse is going to look like a white underwater, almost like a more prevalent white. So it can spark this interesting conversation because I think when it comes to dirtier water, more overcast conditions, I think it comes down to contrast of that color, what those fish can see. But I think in clear water, that's obviously when the color is going to play a little bit more of a factor. I don't know. But
that was the other crazy thing. It was the clearest I've ever seen that lake. I was fishing in I was poking around in like 10 foot of water and I could see the bottom and it was raining and windy and miserable. Like it's never that clear. It was insane. Chili, that's a great one. Yeah, unfortunately, Tim, I did throw the trap for what seemed like forever. Never got bit on it. I got bit on a chatterbait and a square bill.
Let's see. Charles Blood said, this is a funny one. How often when you guys are walking through a tackle store, you see something and just think, why would they make that? Yeah, Lunker Hunt Spider. Obviously, just a plug for YouTubers to make these little challenge videos.
Yeah. Another one is those Salmo like cranking plugs.
I don't know if I've seen those.
Oh yeah, Dick sells them in like the 2 for $7 bin. Yeah, I'm like, who would buy this garbage?
Well, dude, like really fast though, like no engineer in their right mind that knew anything about bass fishing, at least competitively, looked at a spider and says, yeah, we're going to throw that. Guys are going to go catch them on that in a tournament situation. Like we talked to Matt Airy and one of my questions for him at the end of the show, and I'm like, I'm just going to shoot you straight here. You don't have to answer, but like that spider, have you ever once even tied it on for practice? And he goes, no, I throw it in ponds only. And that's it. And I don't blame them, dude. I mean, it's a fun little
Dude.
bait because I think it's smart still. I'll say that because it reached a niche through YouTube. Who knows how they're doing sales wise, but yeah. Lunker hunt anything. Shots across the bow.
So I will say this: when Lunker Hunt first came out, they made a cool little drop shot minnow. I don't remember what it was called, but it looked really good. I just never used it. Yeah, it's funny taking shots at Lunker Hunt. Good job, guys.
I will say I tried the bento minnow? Bento shad? What's their swim
I think it's like a bento or something.
Yes. I've tried that, and I've caught them drop shot in that. I think they're 3-inch. They're 3-inch, a small version drop shot in that. But to me, swim bait wise, dude, like you mentioned earlier, it's Spark Shad, it's Kitech, and I will throw the Rage Swimmer as well when I'm not feeling like using a whole pack of Kitechs on 4 fish. So it's just one of those deals. But
so here's a little tip for you guys too. Like Bass Pro has a good swim bait.
Not the banjo minnow. The bento minnow.
Bass Pro actually makes a good swim bait. Eco Pro, the tungsten company, also has a good swim bait. Jackal Rhythm Wave, I believe. That's another decent swim bait. There are a lot of good swim baits on the market, but only buy ones that come in clamshells. Unless it's a Kitech Easy Shiner because they're so small. But clamshells are huge because when it comes out of the package, if you buy a swim bait in a compressed package, the tail's going to be bent. And it's very hard on these super salty swim baits to get that tail straight. Even if you try to boil it. And then when you put it into, let's call it a plano box. When you put it into your plano box or lure lock box, when you put it in there, that tail's going to refold over. So even you spend all the time to fix your bait, it's already broken as soon as you put it back in the box. So any type of clamshell swim bait is a good swim bait, in my opinion. They all catch fish. They're all just scented slightly different. So they all have their situation. But like I said before, I'm not a big believer in color. Like I could throw Shiner and you could throw Emerald Shiner. We're both going to catch fish on it. It's a confidence thing. Find that bait that you like a lot and go with it.
Light hitch and you don't need anything else. Unless you're in dirty water. The rhythm way. The master has spoken. Stephen and Carey in the house tonight.
Yes.
Mr.
So, I mean, I'll never use a Bass Pro swim bait, but I do know people who use them for Alabama rigs, and it's a cheap alternative to the Kitech, and it still gets chewed. So, but yes, I do have some rhythm waves, Stephen.
That's something interesting to say too. Is you can take your damaged paddle tails and throw them on an A-rig because there's so much going on that one little swim bait swimming a little weird isn't gonna hurt anything. If anything, it might just help it.
It actually might get you bit better.
Because it looks like the dummy in the group, and fish see that and all right, that's the idiot, that's the easy one, that's the hurt cow in the herd for the wolf to pick off. But I think it's important that you have that hard plastic like that bin for these swim baits to be in, because I've been in people's boats where they put them in tackle boxes, and I'll be like, hey, do you mind if I snag a swim bait from you? And I'll go, and their whole box, they're all bent and they don't swim right. Keeping them in that plastic bit, plastic, what do you call it? I'm striking out right here.
Clamshell. It's called clamshell.
Oh gosh, good grief. The clamshell is definitely what you want to keep them in. And then it's important note, we were talking about big baits. If you buy a Megabass Mag Draft, keep the packaging. Do not store that any other way than in the packaging. Otherwise, you will ruin it. And I wasted 3 Mag Drafts before I watched the video from Chris Zaldane to do so.
So if you're going to buy Mag Drafts and you need a box to store them in, nice, Tim. Lure Lock actually makes a deep box that you can pull all of the inserts out, and you can just have a wide open, like a deep tall box that you can just stand them up vertically in. And you could even get it with the Tack Logic on the bottom. So when you stick them in vertically, you can just kind of see, and then they won't fall over. They'll just stick in the attack logic and come right out, and you can take them out of the clamshell, put the clamshell back in, stick it back in. So it's always, so your swim baits aren't falling all over each other. You can see them really well.
Right.
That's awesome. That Dobbins Fury swim bait rod is a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, and talking about the swim bait, and I know we're going to talk about it, like baits that have been confident for us so far in 2021. Talking the beginning of the season, I went down to Chick and I went down to Texas. My confidence down there, to be quite frank, was the Fritz side, cranking bluff walls, because they get on bluff walls early before that pre-spawn, and that's the deal I found, and that's how I found good fish doing that. But up here, the bait that I have the utmost confidence in right now is a 1/4 ounce Owner Ultra football head with a 3-inch. Doesn't even matter if it's a Rage Swimmer or a Kitech or a Spark Shad, either way. As long as it's some sort of shad pattern, they are choking it. And I just love it. Love putting it on a football head, especially if you're dragging along transitions or rock piles or whatever have you. I mean, there's not a lot of grass right now in our lakes, but that's a good go-to. And if you do have grass, dude, or even shallow for that matter, throwing it on an 1/8 ounce ball head, that's a great way to do it, just to hover up in that water column. It's an easy bait for them to pick off. What about you? I know you haven't been out a lot, but what has been your go-to, your confidence thus far?
Lately, it's been the Fritz side. Now that I've kind of figured out how to use it, I'm not a big crankbait fisherman. I used to love it, and I kind of got away from it, and I'm starting to get more dialed into it now. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to crankbaiting is more of like your setup, so you're able to cast that little bait properly. The other big bait for me so far this year, this is a tough one. I don't know what to say. I'm probably honestly a Ned rig, just because smallmouth eat the Ned rig so dang good, especially when the water is just super cold. But as we start getting here to the last 2 weeks of April, I'm going to probably be throwing the blade a ton. So I can't wait. So thanks, Steve. I can't wait to throw a big ski.
We have a question that I feel bad. I hope Shadow is still in the chat here, but you said thoughts on Christy taking the W at Sabine, and really fast. Coming on Friday, great segue. Friday, we are going to have our Sabine recap, but for the majority, we're going to have our Lake Fork preview show coming out on Friday. I know people have been enjoying that we've been doing those, but we're also going to recap, obviously, Christy winning at the Sabine. But really fast, my first thought on Christy taking the W to Sabine, not surprised. That's pretty much kind of going to sum it up. I mean, that's inside his wheelhouse. It's a grinder, and it sets up perfect for the way he was fishing. I mean, look, he was fishing current with a spinnerbait. What's more Christy than that?
With his own designed spinnerbait through Booyah. Like, when that dude puts a spinnerbait on his hand, he's like unstoppable.
Which is really funny because, dude, I was out on the kayak the other day because I was doing some client content, and I was also filming a video that you guys will see soon. It's basically using a spinnerbait to find these pre-spawn fish. And as I'm throwing this spinnerbait, I throw spinnerbait by this log, and I catch one off of it, and I look at that log, and I see something neon flashing, and I see Christy's new spinnerbait, the stuff to the sea. What is it called? Oh my gosh, it's beating me up right now. What's his new Booyah spinnerbait?
I think it's called a covert.
Yes, the covert, because it's got the indent on the one side of the blades, and it's got the Hildebrandt blades on it. I saw it, and I'm literally listening to live in my headphones as they're covering Christy, and Logan, thank you, covert. I find a covert snagged on a log, just pick it off. I'm like, this is fitting. Same color, looked like almost. I mean, obviously couldn't tell blades because of the live, but I'm like, how ironic is it that I find a covert as I'm listening to Jason Christie catch him on a covert? Random story of the day.
That's awesome. So we still need to get one more question in here for me to pick for Bailey for our final coffee winner. So
yeah, really fast. Stephen Carey, he's still in the chat here. Tim Creighton got a 5.8 on the Binsky you gave me today. That's sick.
So when I went out with Brad, Tim was out there, and I pulled one out of my box and threw it in his boat so he could have one, and that's awesome, man. Sweet.
Yeah, 5'8". That's a tank. Any smallmouth over 5, or even who knows if it was smallmouth. Tim, was it a smallmouth or a largemouth? Either way, a 5'8".
Small. He was out next to Jeff.
FA. We are 1000% going to be getting on Mr. Jeff Hippert. That is going to be
cut out there for a second. That the Wi-Fi's being a little funny.
Yeah, you did cut out in a second. We're going to wrap things up here in a second, anyways. But Mr. Jeff Hippert is a good buddy of ours, good buddy of Destin's as well, who's on the Elites, and we're going to have a show coming up, hopefully within the next few months, and that is going to be a long one. And there are some insane stories, so be out on the lookout for that, because that's going to be a bonkers of a show. The amount of stories that this guy and things that he's done, it's going to be pretty sweet. Tim, 2674 today. Good grief, dude. Nice bag. I've been seeing some giant bags people posting. I want to talk about this real quick. I know people are talking about pre-spawn, New York, fish being dumb. Yeah, they are dumb. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. And pretty much short and simple, you don't need to be negative about people catching fish. I think it's awesome. So kudos to the people who are out there and enjoying it. If you're stuck at work, I'm sorry. Hopefully you can get out on the weekends and catch fish. But either way,
yeah,
the fish are dumb now more than they are. Yeah, hopefully they're really stupid for us tomorrow. But it's a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys can get out and catch them, because this is probably the easiest time of the year to catch a giant and a PB. So kudos to the guys that have been out there getting after it. And I'm excited for tomorrow. Andy, do you have a coffee winner for tonight?
I think I'm going to go with Get Up Gaming for how do swim baits do up north. Just because it took us into a good conversation for a few minutes on swim baits. So Get Up Gaming, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, send us a message and get us your address, and we'll get that bag of coffee out to you guys.
Mike B, hard-hitting question. I just got my Binsky blades, now my Queen Tackle switch blades. What am I buying this week? You're going to be buying yourself some Hobie polarized shades.
I was going to say some Queen Hammerheads too.
Oh, dude, the Hammerhead is the freaking deal. If you guys have not, if you're okay, I know we were joking about selfless plugs, but like legit, I've said this on a bunch of shows. Like legit, even if we weren't working with Queen Tackle, the Hammerhead jig would be my number one confidence lure. Still currently, but like all last season, if I wanted to bite, I was throwing a Hammerhead jig because it's a football jig with tungsten rattles inside of it. So, Mike B, Hobie shades. That's it. I'm out. Sorry, buddy. we got you 20% off. We're giving away tomorrow morning.
20% off, like $80.
I know we don't like to selfless plug on this show, so I apologize for all selfless plugs today. But yeah, so
and next it'll be an empty battery.
Yeah, buy yourself a Hydronaut suit. No, we don't pride ourselves on the constant selfless plugs. We're not a show of all advertisements, but we do take pride in who we work with, and it's for good reason. But pretty much what we want to cover is Andrew Hayes from Tackle Talk. I'll reach out to you, buddy, and get your address and get you some coffee sent over. And Get Up Gaming, if you're still in here, dude, we're gonna get some coffee sent out to you as well. Get in touch with us, and we'll get your contact information and get you sent out some serious angler coffee from Outdoorsman Coffee Co. But I think beyond that, let's see. One quick question we have from Tyler Vanderbilt. Either of you ever try the headbanger that you always see on the gram? I've heard good things. I've heard mixed reviews. I think it might be because it's kind of like a subtle chatterbait essentially. It just kind of, it's almost like a wobblehead. It looks like. Have you seen it?
So I haven't. I actually haven't looked at it.
A wobblehead. It looks like a wobblehead, but with like an Arky style head esque. I don't know, Tyler. Maybe we'll have to order some and make a video on us actually using it. I'm gonna actually write that down in my notes just because you asked that, Tyler. Tyler is another local good hammer around here.
Real question, Bailey. Do you have any wobbleheads?
I do have wobbleheads. Would you like to put them
on?
You
do or you don't?
I do.
Yeah, because I'm gonna put them on a rod.
There you go.
Yeah, bring some wobbleheads. Or are they Queen Tackle wobbleheads?
They are queen tackle tungsten wobbleheads.
Perfect. Bring on. I have a rod I want to throw down.
Tyler, consider it done. I will order some headbangers and make a video on if they suck or not. I'll give you the honest review. Yeah, Stephen Carey said mixed reviews. I was interested, but like you said, reviews scared me off. Yeah. But other than that, Andrew, obviously we're going fishing tomorrow. We're going to have some videos being posted here this week. For those who might be kayak anglers in the chat, I'm posting a full review, performance review, and a setup video for the Hobie PA12360, the 2021 version, 2020 edition, I should say. That's coming out this week. But other than that, dude, do you have anything left for the folks before we sign off here?
Now, get in on that giveaway tomorrow. Win yourself a pair of sweet shades.
Yes, sir. Yeah, if you guys aren't following us on Instagram, head over to Instagram because we're posting a way for you guys to win some free Hobie shades tomorrow morning on our Instagram page. But on Wednesday, we have Jake Harshman, national kayak angler, coming on. We talked about kind of practicing for these big national tournaments where these giant lakes and you're in a kayak, so you can't cover that much water, and we kind of broke down into detail how to be more efficient when you don't have the time to cover all that ground. So we talked about that, and obviously, like I mentioned, Friday will be the Lake Fork preview, and we also recap the Sabine River. But I think that does it for tonight, guys. Really fast again, Instagram page tomorrow morning. We're running a giveaway for those Hobie shades, the Mojos. Again, like we had mentioned, if you want to get some, if you're interested, check out the description below. We always post our discount codes in the description. If you guys ever are interested in any of the brands that we work with and you want a percentage off, check out those links or just reach out to us, and I'll obviously try to do our best to hook you up. But as always, guys, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday.